Why did a joyful Christmas dinner end with Madison Rourke lying lifeless on the floor, while the only man who could have saved her became the prime suspect? The central mystery begins. Her smile had filled the room hours earlier. Her chair at the dinner table was still warm. And yet, by midnight, paramedics whispered her name like a tragedy they didn't want to announce. Visual snapshot. Christmas night. The lights were still glowing. The dishes hadn't been cleared. Her red scarf lay crumpled near the door, as if she tried to reach it before everything went silent. But the moment investigators stepped inside, one detail hit them harder than the cold air. Officer Grant Holloway stood over her, still in uniform, and his hands were shaking. Main suspect, Officer Grant Holloway, Lauren Rourke, her sister, arrived seconds later, breathless, confused, and already breaking. She didn't see chaos. She saw guilt swimming in his eyes. And that's when the first question formed, a question that would divide the entire town. Why was Grant the last person with Madison? And why did he call for help 9 minutes late? Timeline flag. 9-minute gap. 9 minutes. Not long enough to forget. Long enough to destroy trust. Pastor Elijah Brooks, who had hosted the dinner, stood frozen at the doorway. He kept replaying the night in his mind. Madison laughing, Grant quiet, the subtle tension no one recognized until now. Meanwhile, Trevor Miles, who had been lingering outside when the scream cut through the winter air, told Deputy Nora Quinn something he shouldn't have seen. Grant wasn't alone when the lights went out. But one detail didn't add up. Deputy Quinn felt her stomach sink. If that was true, then the entire story was about to collapse. And while everyone argued, questioned, and speculated, Jake Alden, Madison's co-worker who was supposed to drive her home, stood in the corner, silent, harboring a truth that threatened to rip this case open, because he'd heard Madison say something earlier at the dinner table. Something soft, shaken, and deeply private. I'm scared of what he'll do tonight. But she never said who he was. And now the only person who could finish that sentence was lying on a cold floor, unable to speak again. And just when investigators thought they understood the crime, a single overlooked clue shifted everything. A fingerprint on the back door. Too high for Madison, too fresh for a stranger, and too damning for the man who swore he never stepped outside. If Grant claimed innocence, then whose fingerprint was it? If Grant Holloway claimed he never left Madison's side, then why did the timeline prove he disappeared during the most critical minute of her life? Contradiction detected. Deputy Nora Quinn kept her voice steady, but her mind raced. Grant's story was neat, too neat, and the cracks began to show fast. Pastor Elijah remembered exactly when Grant excused himself from the table. 1 minute before the scream. Grant swore it was only to check his patrol car. But the cruiser's engine was cold. Timestamp check. Not matching. Trevor Miles, who had been outside on the walkway, never saw Grant approach the vehicle at all. No doors opened. No lights blinked. Nothing. Which made Grant's quick car check the first verified lie. Lauren Rourke's grief sharpened into outrage. You vanished right before she died. Why? Grant's jaw clenched. I heard Madison arguing with someone in the hallway. I went to see if she was okay. I didn't say anything earlier because I didn't want her reputation dragged through this. Silence fell. His excuse didn't match Madison's gentle nature. And it didn't match what Jake Alden knew, because Madison had been scared hours before dinner. But not of an argument. She was scared of someone watching her. New revelation. Hidden interaction. Deputy Quinn's eyes shifted to Grant's uniform sleeve. A faint streak, dull but noticeable under the living room light. Not blood, not food. It looked like compressed dust, the kind found on attic latches or old storage doors. Why would a police officer have attic dust on his sleeve during a Christmas dinner? And more importantly, what, or who, was he doing upstairs? This changes everything. If Grant Holloway never walked upstairs, then why did the attic show signs of someone moving inside it minutes before Madison died? New suspicion unlocked. Deputy Nora Quinn climbed the narrow hallway ladder slowly. The attic door hadn't been opened in years, yet the latch was freshly disturbed. Dust patterns don't lie. A clean smear ran across the wood, the same shape as the mark on Grant's sleeve. Dust match. Confirmed. Below her, Lauren Rourke waited, trembling. Why would anyone be up there during dinner? Madison hated that attic. Quinn didn't answer, because the truth was sitting right in front of her. A single footprint pressed into the dust, full weight, deep heel, standard police boot tread. Grant's tread. Trevor Miles stepped back as if burned. I didn't hear the attic door open, but I did hear something moving above us before the scream. Pastor Elijah closed his eyes, shaken. Someone had been watching the family from overhead. Quiet, hidden, deliberate. Jake Alden whispered the thought none of them wanted to say aloud. Was she trying to get away from him? The fear sets in, and then Quinn saw it. A small folded piece of Christmas wrapping paper tucked between the attic boards. Madison's handwriting on the edge. A message she had tried to hide. And whatever she wrote was torn away too quickly to finish. The missing message. If Madison tried to hide a message in the attic, who tore it out of her hands before she could finish writing it? Torn evidence. Deputy Nora Quinn laid the scrap of wrapping paper under the lamp. Only 3 words were legible, but they were enough to freeze the room. He followed me. The dash cut off violently, the paper ripped mid-stroke. Lauren Rourke covered her mouth, shaking. She wouldn't write that unless she felt hunted. Grant Holloway's face drained of color. I didn't follow her. I went upstairs because... He stopped. Trevor Miles stepped forward, voice barely steady. She wasn't alone in the hallway. I heard footsteps behind her heavier than hers. New footsteps reported. Pastor Elijah swallowed hard. Grant. Did you go after Madison when she left the table? Yes or no? Grant didn't respond. His silence was louder than any confession. Deputy Quinn noticed something else on the torn paper. A faint smear of gray, the same dust from the attic boards. Meaning Madison had gone up there herself, or someone forced her toward it. Jake Alden whispered. Why would she climb into a dark attic unless she was running from someone she trusted? Quinn folded the scrap carefully. Whoever tore the rest of the message didn't want Madison's fear written down. And that meant the missing half didn't just reveal her terror. It revealed the person she was terrified of. If Madison tried to warn someone before she died, who was the message meant for? Target of the warning. Deputy Nora Quinn replayed the night step by step until one detail surfaced. Madison had stepped outside during dinner to make a quick phone call. Call she never finished. Lauren Rourke pulled out her sister's phone, hands shaking. The last outgoing number wasn't Grant. And it wasn't anyone at the dinner. It was Jake Alden. Jake's face went pale. She tried calling me? I didn't hear it ring. But Quinn saw the truth in the log. Madison dialed him twice. Both calls cut off within seconds. 2 interrupted calls. Trevor Miles whispered. She only walked away from the table after Grant followed her into the hallway. The room tightened. Grant finally spoke. I went after her because she looked upset. That's it. But his voice had lost its steady confidence. The more he talked, the more the pieces contradicted him. Pastor Elijah glanced at the torn message. She wanted Jake to know something urgent, something she couldn't say out loud. Quinn's mind locked onto the one chilling possibility. Madison wasn't writing a goodbye. She was writing a name. Who was she naming? The missing half of that note didn't describe fear. It identified the person who caused it. And the reason it was torn was because she almost exposed the one person in that house who couldn't afford to be named. If Madison's warning was real, then who in that room made her feel hunted? On-screen caption. The fear revealed. Deputy Nora Quinn stared at the torn paper again. The gray dust, the hallway footsteps, the interrupted calls. Everything pointed to one person. Grant Holloway. Lauren Rourke's eyes narrowed. He was the last person anyone saw with her alive. And she tried to call Jake. Not him. Why? Grant's hands trembled, hidden in his pockets. I didn't touch her. Trevor Miles broke the silence. I saw him move toward the hallway just before the scream, then stop abruptly. He didn't leave, but she never came back. Final minutes uncovered, Pastor Elijah whispered, voice tight. Her fear wasn't sudden. She'd glanced at him all evening, uneasy, tense, avoiding his gaze. Jake Alden's chest tightened. She knew. She knew exactly who she couldn't trust. Deputy Quinn's gaze sharpened. The attic dust, the footsteps, the torn note. All of it meant Madison had been cornered by someone she believed she could never escape. And in that moment, the house itself seemed to whisper. The person she feared most had been wearing a uniform. What really happened in those final moments? And who would finally answer for it? Deputy Nora Quinn replayed every step, every lie, every hidden movement. The attic dust, the footsteps, the torn note. It all led to one undeniable fact. Grant Holloway had cornered Madison in the hallway. Lauren Rourke's voice cracked as she confronted him. Why Grant? Why her? Grant faltered. He tried to explain, but the evidence spoke louder than words. Footprints, fingerprints, the timeline, Madison's unfinished message. It all painted a clear picture. Arrest made. Within hours, Grant was taken into custody. The town felt a mix of shock and relief. For the first time, Madison's family could breathe, not just for justice, but for truth. Pastor Elijah Brooks lit a candle for Madison, whispering her name softly. Trevor Miles and Jake Alden stood quietly, hearts heavy, but grateful that the mystery was finally solved. Justice served. Madison's memory would never fade. Her courage, leaving behind clues that exposed the truth, ensured that the man who betrayed trust would answer for his actions. If you want more gripping, emotional true crime stories that uncover justice, hit subscribe to The Veil of Secret. Subscribe for justice and suspense.